You're on Sport Nation Mornings with Rick and Chapman. It is our pleasure to welcome one of the greats of New Zealand basketball to the show. Of course, GM now of the Brooklyn Nets as well. It's been a little while, actually, when I say now. Sean Marks, g'day. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Mate, our pleasure. 10 years. How fast has that gone by for you?
Man, it seems like yesterday, to be honest, but a lot has happened in those 10 years, a lot of learning curves and so forth, but incredible memories. So it's fun to get to this point in the season again when you're about to embark on a new season and a new set of problems and a new group of players and new expectations. So it's great. Love it.
How different has the role changed, Sean, over the last few years? We've spoken quite a bit because you look at where you started, the team you had, the roster that you had, obviously with that big three, and now this exciting period that you're in. How different is that role?
Yeah, look, it's ever changing, and you hope you're always growing and learning, and you're sort of, as a group, including myself, we're all curious minded and how we can capitalize on a new CBA, on a new roster, different world, different circumstances. Our roster is obviously quite different and has had, as you alluded to, a few different iterations of that. When we first started out, we didn't have a whole lot of assets and draft assets and so forth, and we continued to build the team. We built it up to where it was a place where the top tier talent was attracted to. Obviously, then we pivoted away from that. Now we've built up to a very young team, and where we have the youngest team in the league, which is that too is exciting, where we're helping to develop young men, which is great.
How do you view, I suppose, where you are at this point of the season? It must almost feel like start of school vibes with, everyone being back together and talking and hanging out properly for the first time. But also, where would you assess where this roster is at in terms of, it seems quite positionless in a way in terms of who you've drafted, who you've now brought on board, but also, is it like a clean slate in a way?
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it. The way Geordie, our head coach, has sort of phrased it is everybody has an opportunity. That we're not going to pigeonhole somebody and say, hey, you have to be this, you have to fit inside a box. Like, that's the exciting thing for where we are is trying to mold these players and give them an opportunity to go and have success and find success in a variety of different pathways. In his system, go compete for an opportunity. Nobody's coming in with any hidden agenda or any promises or anything like that. So for us being such a young team like this, that to me is really exciting where we are right now and looking at the trajectory of this group over the next 2-3 years. That
positionless basketball, is that kind of where you see the game now is?
Yeah, I think that's where the game has sort of been trending in that direction now for quite some time. Definitely it's sort of that's a buzzword for the last, I don't know if it's 5, 6, 10 years or so. I also think when you draft a guy and you say, hey, he's got to be this position or he's got to play that way, you might be missing out on how they develop. I mean, when we took 4 19-year-olds, and when you have young guys like that in the draft, like I look back and go, well, myself at 19 compared to when I was at 22, you're just a different person, physically, mentally, maturity, emotionally. So where these young men are in 3, 4, 5 years, that's exciting from a basketball standpoint, but also from a from an individual maturity and as I said before, just emotionally who they are.
Who was 19-year-old Sean Marks? What was he up to?
You don't want to know.
I do want to know. That's why I'm asking.
Well, at 19, I was probably still pretty curious, but to be quite frank, I had no idea what I wanted to do, where I wanted to get to, how I was going to get there. I think, being in the NBA was always a dream.
So do you consider that then, like with these relationships with these guys, are you saying, what was I actually doing at these guys' ages and give them a bit of leeway?
Yeah. Well, I think you have to put it in perspective. The problem is it wouldn't really be fair for me to say, well, what was I doing? Because, I mean, that's a few generations ago. So I'm a lot older than these guys. I think more, it would probably behoove me more to sort of say, okay, well, what did a guy in 2010, 2015 look like? The world has changed. It's a different place. Social media is completely different. What players are working on these days, how they're playing the game, how they're prepared for this, the demands on their body for a game that's quite different in pace and space and so forth. So there's a lot of different facets that go into this. And, you do have to keep in perspective, okay, well, let's not, judge a guy too quickly, especially when they're 19, 20 years old.
Sean, the role I would imagine has evolved, as Chappie touched on, in the last 10 years. How much of a balancing act is it? Because I imagine you're not planning year to year. You're looking 5, maybe even 10 years down the line, right? But how do you balance that with giving the fan base success this season?
Yeah, look, that's a great question, and it's a difficult one, right? From a fan perspective, I think everybody wants immediate results, right? And we've got to teach and a little bit of patience here, but I think if from a fan's perspective, if they can see we're building the right way, we're building with the right guys, we're not doing any sort of knee-jerk reaction to be detrimental to the long-term success of the team. We want to have sustainable success. That's what we always talk about is like, how can you build this up to where you can have success in repeated years? I mean, that's what it looks like for us. We have a lot of assets, a lot of draft assets in our coffers here. So how we use those things, I think the selling point is, it's exciting for us. We have flexibility into the future. We haven't used all our cap space. We don't intend to right now. I mean, we will. Our contracts, show us that there's flexibility in that. The new CBA, I think 30 teams are trying to navigate what that looks like, right, with the punitive tax implications of that now. So when it is time to press go, and hopefully that's soon, we do that knowing that there's still a margin of flexibility left, and it's a way to the races here. In our market, that's the exciting thing for us as well, right? In Brooklyn and New York, it's a different market than a lot of teams out there. So we'll attract, hopefully, the stars and do it the right way at the right time.
Yeah, on that, I mean, you got drafted by the Knicks, and now you're in charge of the Nets, obviously, and there's a rivalry there. I mean, how often do you get reminded of that, and what is that relationship like between the two teams in New York?
I don't really get reminded of it a whole lot, to be honest, but there is a good rivalry between Nets and Knicks. I think they're at a different life cycle right now, or time in their life cycle. I mean, they're in a win now mode, whereas we're not there right now. We're more of a developmental stage. We'll get there, but again, I think at the same time, both teams would say the same thing. There's nothing like beating the other, right? You want a good crosstown rivalry. We would hope that both teams can be competitive and have a good battle out there on the court. I mean, there's nothing like that when both crowds are going at it.
There's this mindset in the NBA, Sean, that you can only really win championships with superstars. Probably Detroit is the only ones really this century that have managed to do so without those massive names. You've got Michael Porter Jr., you've kept Cam Thomas. They aren't, with all due respect to them, that enormous names, but what messages are they being given from you, from the coaching staff, about their expectations, mainly as leading scorers?
Yeah. Well, I think, firstly, you have an opportunity to go out there and do something special. When people are writing us off, I like a chip on our shoulder, right? We want competitive guys. That's the first.
That's a very Kiwi thing, eh?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you have to have. That's what you want to carry. You want to carry that chip with you, no matter how successful you are. I think that motivates you at all times. Like, people are going to write you off. People are going to say negative things about you. I mean, right now the pundits have us at winning, I think it's 19 games. So, I mean, that's going to be motivation for our players. I don't need to motivate them any more than that. I think at the end of the day, they're also playing for themselves. They're playing for the jersey, but they're also playing for, like, what's my next contract look like? We've made it very clear that by signing short-term deals and by keeping future flexibility, we're going to have the ability to pay players. Are you going to be one of them? And the opportunity is there for them to go and seize.
It's very corporate chat, but if you were to describe the phase of where this team is at, what would it be? Is it the building phase?
Yeah, it is. It's a rebuild. We're in that. I think it's more of a development phase. I think that's the exciting thing for us, like seizing opportunities that come along, making our own opportunities for us. We've got a young coaching staff that's proved last year that their sweat equity is second to none. I mean, Jordy's done a heck of a job with being very transparent with players. They know where they stand with him. It's a very transparent relationship there, which is great. Players want to play for him. Players want to play in this market. It's about developing our own guys. Let's not forget that. So who can we develop here, and who can play above their contract and so forth, and again, carry that chip forward.
Is it that scrappiness that is almost that selling point to the fans that, hey, we are going to keep fighting no matter what?
Yeah, I think you have to play the right way. Like, fans will be turned off by the idea of if they're overpaid or they're not playing, a brand of basketball that's one is exciting, or that's, if they look like there's a lack of care out there. And I don't think that's not conducive to the Brooklyn borough. I mean, it's a working class borough. We have to be authentic to that. So we want to be scrappy, like you said. We want to be diving for the loose balls on the floor. We want to be making those extra plays out there. And if we're not doing that, you have to be incredibly talented to make up for that.
Is that a Kiwi thing as well, do you think?
I mean, I think it's obviously partly a Kiwi thing, but I think it's being authentic to who we are here, being authentic to Brooklyn, being authentic to who my mentors have been, who I've been around growing up, who Geordie's, grown up with, and then it's the whole office here. It's not just one or two people. We've got to find the right people, the right cast of characters to go out there and really drive that culture home. And I think that's what we've strived to do over the last several years.
How aware are you of just how global the NBA is now? I know they're starting to follow in those NFL footsteps, right? You've got a game in Mexico City this season, got two in Europe this season. There's talk of an NBA Europe in maybe 27, 28 around there. So how conscious are you of that, of just how global the sport is now, this league is?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we've got over 40% of the NBA is foreign, in some form or fashion. So it's a global game. That's exciting to me. I think it's one of the fastest growing sports in the world still. There's more people picking up a ball. You can play it basically anywhere. That's exciting. You don't need 10 guys. You can play by yourself. You can play with 2 or 3 guys. You can play anywhere in the world. I think it's extraordinary, the level of talent that's coming into the NBA and into college basketball that was not raised in the US, and it's clear when you look at the last several MVPs of the league are foreign, right? So and that's exciting, and that gives all aspiring young foreign kids like myself when I grew up hope, right? It's like, well, dream big, why not?
Why not, indeed? Well, we've got a team here in the Breakers, obviously, that has had a history previously of producing a lot of Kiwi talent. They went away from that for a while. We've got new ownership group there. Has there ever been a thought about, in your role with the Nets, partnering with someone like the Breakers, having a couple of players, G League players, come down and play in this season, and just seeing, having some sort of agreement with pathways and things like that for New Zealand players?
Be easy scouting for you.
If it was legal, yes, that would be great. But the rules prohibit a lot of those things. I think, I'm down in New Zealand at least once a year scouting, and I definitely go through the Breakers and watch their guys when I'm down there, like most NBA teams do. It's a credit to not only the Breakers, but the NBL, or what the product they've put out there. It's attracting. We have to go down there. There's just far too much talent to ignore. So that's a great thing. It is obviously separate from the Brooklyn Nets and the NBA. Like, that's their own league, that's their own entity. Those players are, once they're draft eligible and then they get drafted, that's when we can contact them and be in touch with them.
As someone who's so passionate about basketball in this country, though, Sean, it must be quite satisfying to see that Kiwi aspect of it with, who's allowing you and Dylan Boucher to run basketball teams? I don't know. There needs to be some sort of adjudication here over leadership. But the fact that he's back involved, Judd's involved, obviously Tom's involved, that must be quite satisfying for you.
It's really great. It's great to see where the ex Tall Blacks of bygone eras where they are, right, and what they've done, and it's great. We're still on a group chat together. We always talk and so forth, and plenty of them have come and visited me and so forth, and I do the same when I come back down there. But it just shows, like, there's so much talent down in New Zealand and Australia and other parts of the world that them being able to give back to the game has been great. And obviously I'm incredibly lucky to have sort of fallen into this role over the course of the last sort of 15, 20 years. And yeah, as you said at the very beginning of this conversation, would you ever have dreamed this and thought about it? Probably not, but why not?
Someone needs to release those messages, eh? Or not, actually. Probably for your own safety and legality, maybe not really. Just before we let you go, bro, we do a Mount Rushmore draft every week on our show. Today's topic is the Mount Rushmore of Kiwi basketballers. You can put yourself on there if you want to. Don't let humility get in the way of a good story. Who's on your Mount Rushmore of Kiwi basketballers?
Yeah, very interesting. I think, well, for sure, Steven Adams, without a doubt, what he's been able to accomplish and really put a brand and a culture of New Zealand over here on the map has been really, really great. I love watching Steven play. I love how he plays. He is the glue guy to every team he's been on, so for sure, without a doubt. I look at a guy like Stan Hill, the guys who paved the way for us long before I was around, and I was very fortunate that he was one of the coaches on my early Tall Black years. I've enjoyed going down and visiting him in his pub. So a guy like that probably doesn't get enough credit, to be quite frank. And then there's players there's several players that I grew up emulating and watching, and the guys from Andrew Gardner to Craig Ferrant and so forth, that way back in those early North Harbour days, I mean, they were terrific. That's what they inspired me how to play. I think the Mount Rushmore of New Zealand basketball, I mean, Kirk Penny's up there, Phil Jones is up there, Piero Cameron, without a doubt, is either one or two on that list for what he accomplished and what that team did in the World Champs I don't know that it's 2, 3, 4 guys, but I think it's a collective group. And I think what separates probably maybe the way the Tall Blacks have played is they play like a team. It's always been on depth. It's always been on the next man up mentality. And I think that is very Kiwi. Being able to hold each other accountable, play at such a high level, and play for your country. As I've said before, there's nothing like wearing that jersey. That beats everything.
Yeah, we might have to move Sean's from Mount Rushmore to Mount Cook. It feels like we need more rock.
Just as we wrap, Sean, I'm sure you defined success as being in the conversation and competing this year, but what does that actually look like tangibly, and how do you quantify, I suppose, what that looks like?
Yeah, I think success for us is we've continued to develop a competitive and an inspiring culture. What I mean by that is you can define what a net looks like. When people look at us from afar and say, okay, hey, I like the way those guys are playing. They're playing the right brand of basketball. They're playing the right way. And in a year from now, I hope to look back and say, well, we're ready to take the next step, the next little jump in our iteration of basketball life here and attract different players. We've developed our own players. I think that's very, very important. I mean, if you can sell your development system, which I think our coaching staff has done a great job, that will be success. And again, have that chip on your shoulder, prove a lot of people wrong, and go out there and have a lot of fun and look like you're having fun doing it.
Sean, thanks very much for your time, man. I know you're a busy man, so we really appreciate it. Best of luck to you and the Nets this NBA season.
Cheers, guys. A lot of fun talking to you. Take care.